コロンビア、かつて世界で最も危険な国と呼ばれ、世界最大の麻薬生産国として世界で流通するコカインビジネスの8割を牛耳り、史上最大の麻薬組織を生み出し、暴力、内戦、麻薬戦争が絶えない国。コロンビアは1890年にスペイン植民地から独立して以降、植民地時代から残る格差社会、内戦により貧困な社会ではあったが、なんとか主要産業物のコーヒーを生産し賄っていたが、アメリカ政府などの圧力によりコーヒーの価格が暴落し、さらに貧困化が進み、1970年代では国民の7割が貧困状態だった。そんな貧困社会から抜け出すべく国民は麻薬の生産に手を染めるようになり、1976年にはコカインを流通させる史上最大の麻薬組織メデジンカルテルが創設された。その創設者こそ現在価値10兆円の純資産を蓄え、世界で7番目に裕福な人にまで上り詰めた世界の麻薬王パブロ・エスコバル。彼はコカインを最初にアメリカに密輸経路を確立した男と呼ばれ、1980年代にはコロンビアからアメリカに向けて月間70から80トンものコカインの密輸が行われた結果、アメリカではコカインが大流行し、全盛期では現在価値で毎月200億円以上の利益があったと言われ、最終的に現在価値で年間8兆円を超える額を稼いだと言われているみたいです。彼は瞬く間に世界有数の富豪となったが、国内外にいる敵対勢力との闘争が絶えず、組織を守るために彼は手段を選ばなかった。彼は施設の軍隊まで保有し、警察官、裁判官、政治家などの役人を買収、殺害を繰り返し、時には自ら犯した犯罪を不起訴処分にさせたり、コロンビアの憲法を自らの都合のいい方へとも変え、マフィアの領域を超え、コロンビア政府までも従える史上最も裕福かつ権力を持つ犯罪者となった。しかしパブロ・エスコバルを非難する人は数多い一方で、貧しい人々の暮らしの便宜を図ろうと、貧困層への経済支援や貧困層向けの福祉施設、無料の住宅建設を進めていたことから、国民の7割が貧困状態だったコロンビアでは英雄として認知している人もいるみたいで、メデジンカルテルがこれだけの規模になった背景には住人の支持があったからと言われ、パブロ・エスコバルの身が危うくなった時には進んで隠れ家を提供する住人が絶えなかった。しかし1989年事件が起きた。メデジンカルテルと敵対し、後のコロンビアの大統領となるセサル・ガリビアが登場する予定だった空港機が暗殺目的でパブロ・エスコバルに爆破され、約110人が亡くなった。幸福なことに次期大統領セサル・ガリビアは爆破された空港機には乗っておらず命を取り留め、以降大統領に就任したが、110人の死者の中には2人のアメリカ人がいた。その事件を機にパブロ・エスコバールはアメリカを本格的に敵に回してしまうと、1991年パブロ・エスコバールはアメリカに身柄を引き渡さないとコロンビア政府との約束のもと自首し、5年間服役することとなった。しかし服役場所は自ら建設した快適な刑務所。そこはまさに夢の楽園だったと言われており、ディスコやサッカー場、カジノ、おまけに看守も自分の部下というまるで5つ星高級ホテルのような場所だった。彼が服役中も麻薬ビジネスは収まることがなく、刑務所でも彼の残虐行為が続いた結果、1992年政府は彼を正式な刑務所へ移送させる計画がなされると、危険を察知したエスコバルは逃走し、約1年間逃亡生活を行ったが、コロンビア政府、アメリカの特殊部隊、敵対マフィア、反政府軍の介入により、1993年潜伏先の彼の支持者の家にて死亡した。そんな一部の住人から愛されるも、コロンビアという国を世界で最も危険な国へと導いた男の実態を今回見てみました。はい、皆さん、What's up? バッパー翔太でございます。現在はですね、コロンビア第2の都市メデジンに来ております。今回からですね、コロンビア編スタートということで、かつてですね、世界最強の都市と呼ばれたメデジンをね、今回見ていきたいなと思います。Okay, nice to meet you. My name is Shota.
Hi, Shota. My name is Carlos Palau.
Okay, so you used to be the ex-police.
Yes, sir. I was a police officer there in that time, 1990 until 2000.
Okay, so you're trying to catch Pablo Escobar.
Yes, sir. So, and we failed.
Right. So today we're gonna see more deep side of the Medellin and then Pablo Escobar, right?
Yes, sir. You can ask me all your questions.
Have you met Pablo Escobar before or no?
Never. That was I'm still alive. The guys say met him, or was close to him was family, and the people protect him.
Oh, I see.
No, people like me, ex-police officer, wear the uniform. No way.
Oh, yeah?
No. If the police officer met Pablo Escobar in person, is because was corrupted.
Right,
Was so corrupted. Yes.
So I have another question, which is like a Medellin cartel is still active now or no?
No, sir. Medellin cartel was gone that day when Pablo Escobar died, December 2nd, 1993. Medellin cartel was boom, gone. And
But I hear it's like like spirited small groups.
it's gangsters, but they don't have the power like a Pablo Escobar because he controlled that one,
Yeah, he used to control even government, no?
Oh yeah, he controlled the government. He put the rules at the time.
はい、ということで皆さん、ここがですね、パブロ・エスコバルが自分のために作ったと言われる刑務所でございます。メデジンが一望できる最高な場所にある刑務所の中にはサッカー競技場、ディスコ、カジノ、酒場、泡風呂などがあったと言われ、看守は全員自分の部下だったので頻繁にメデジン市内に行き来してたみたいです。How long did he stay here?
He's supposed to stay here for 8 years.
8 years.
8 years, But he only stayed here 13 months is because he escaped.
So he built himself here, right? So how much did it cost?
He bought this place for $5 million. And then he got that transformation for the most luxury prison around the world.
Yeah.
So this area, as you can see, over here was the casino. Pablo Escobar took a picture with a Russian hat and prison went there. And the guy took the picture because Americans didn't approve he's in real prison. So that is why he took the picture with a Russian house. Russian and the US don't have a good relationship.
Yeah.
Like a Pablo Escobar jokes. Took the picture and sent to US, okay, look at me, I'm prison now. What happened here in this area? Not there. Here. More than 100 people died over here.
Here.
In these areas.
Yes.
Insane.
ここはですね、パブロ・エスコバールの親友の2人がエスコバールから3000万米ドルを盗んだとして処刑された場所でもあるみたいで、その事件をきっかけにパブロはね、この刑務所から移送されることになったみたいです。パブロ・エスコバールはですね、計4000人以上の殺人に関わったとされているみたいで、200人の裁判官、1000人以上の警察官、あと政府関係者、新聞記者、敵対勢力などなど。So I hear like Pablo Escobar killed so many like police and then politicians and judge people and then he was sending sniper to kill. So how much he was paying for that?
Like a regular police officer like me, 1990, it was $100. The maximum price is when it became to be like a commander or was part of the search block. Going up until $1,000 to kill any American. I see like a DA agent or Colombia president, $1 million.
So Pablo Escobar also killed the local people or only like important people like police or like against peoples?
Everybody.
Man,
when you had a gun, if you want to kill somebody, you go directly at the guy. When you want to kill somebody with a knife, it's personal. But when you put bombs, a car bomb, you cannot control how many people are going to die that day.
That's true.
So when Pablo Escobar started to put here car bombs, the first car bomb exploded here in Colombia is when the guy put a car bomb or sent to put a car bomb at the US embassy. Nobody can control a bomb.
Exactly.
Innocent people die. Childs, teenagers, pregnant woman, old men. Wow. And then remember in 1989 in Lagos, Pablo Escobar to kill one person or to kill just one guy, 107 innocent people die. We are afraid to go outside. We are afraid to walk free in the streets.
銃弾か金か、金を選んだ者は賄賂を支払いコントロールし、それ以外は皆殺し。それがたとえ政府の偉いさんであっても。はい、皆さん、ここがですね、実際に拷問が行われていたところっていうところみたいで、ここで何人の人が亡くなったかで、何人の人が痛み叫んで、すごいクリーピーな場所ですね。
I'm here alone, tired, and then I can scream everything. Want to scream? Anybody want to help me? And the guys came in here and say, "Okay, you are enemy of us," and then start to cut you part in pieces. Electricity and everything, and then they kill you, and now it's creepy how the people suffer here, and they can do nothing.
いろんなね人が亡くなって拷問から叫び声がね響き渡る中、どんな心境でカジノできる？いや、 全く想像できないですよね。でいつ敵対勢力が攻めてきて自分の命狙われるかわからんという状況の中、寝れますか？普通なら寝れないですよ。
Just listen to me. What are you gonna do?
Okay. Oh my god, it's like a feeling something
Exactly.
shaking. What's that inside?
Underground was a hole, was the tunnel. Over here was the tunnel. The tunnel coming here, probably through there. You see that fence there?
Yeah.
It's over there. He had another place to go there inside the tunnel.
刑務所付近には無数の脱出ルートを確保していたらしく、パブロはですね、この地下トンネルを使って脱獄したみたいです。で、彼はですね、アメリカだけには投獄されたくない。それやったらコロンビアで死んだ方がマシやと。アメリカの投獄生活は超過酷。1日に約15分しか外の光見えないし、約2メートルのもうほんま豚小屋みたいな小さなとこに閉じ込められる。そのためコロンビアのね、財政赤字を返済し、コロンビアのね、犯罪人引き渡しの法律を変えさせたほど、とてつもなくないですか？法律を権力で変えてしまうんですよ。So Pablo used to own not only prisons, right? So many houses and even zoos.
Even the zoo.
Yeah.
He put over there exotic animals. One
What
the-
kind of animals?
Okay, the most famous animals is the hippos.
Hippos. Oh, I hear Colombia is here. So many hippos now
Yeah.
because of the Pablo Escobar.
Because Pablo Escobar. So
Wow.
you know those hippos is no region for this area. You know.
Yeah.
This
From
for
Africa.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And now we have a little more than 100.
That can be dangerous to destroy the nature because that's
Mhm.
not original, right?
That's not original, exactly, my friend. So that is a huge problem. Thanks for Pablo.
So how scared to be, as a police, during that times?
Oh no, all the time I was scared.
Scared?
Since that day when I signed to be a cop, in every single second of my life, when Pablo Escobar was alive, I was scared.
But not only you, no, also your families and friends.
Families. No, man. Also, it's sad to say now, but your family can kill you. The
Mhm.
people you meet before, your friends.
Mm-hmm.
You had a girlfriend, you had a wife. For many years, has suffered trauma, post-trauma war. We call PTSD.
続きましてやってきたのは、ここにはね、もともとパブロが所有してた高級マンションがね、あったみたいなんですけど、住民のトラウマを打ち消すために取り壊されて、現在はね、パブロの影響で犠牲になった人々のメモリアルとして残されているみたいです。
There's so many holes. What is that?
It look like a bullet, you know?
Mm-hmm.
46,612 people died.
Mm-hmm.
So it's 46,612 holes for each victims. So that is a memorial of them.
皆さん、数えきれんぐらいの穴です。どれだけの人が亡くなったのか。その時代のね、コロンビアの暴力がですね、ここにはね、全部記されているメモリアルです。今やね、ネットフィリックスで物語にもなったパブロ・エスコバール。でもこれだけの人が亡くなった。果たして彼は英雄なのか、地元の人はどんな意見なのか、めちゃめちゃ気になりますね。
So, ¿qué te parece de histórico de antes?
Fue horrible, horrible. Vivíamos en una guerra continua. Vivíamos prácticamente en una guerra continua, todo el día bombas. Y nosotros, los habitantes de acá del poblado, nos hemos beneficiado mucho con este parque. Y nos beneficiamos porque podemos traer los perritos y que se cuente lo triste y lo horrible que fue la historia que tuvimos.
¿Qué te parece de Pablo Escobar?
Horrible.
Asesino,
Es una vergüenza.
criminal.
Es una vergüenza para Colombia.
¿Has visto mucha gente muerto?
Mucha gente me tocó a mí. Cuando mis hijos estaban pequeños, en el 89, en el 90, fue horrible. Fue muy duro, mucho. Dios quiera no se repite esa historia otra vez.
So after Pablo Escobar dies, everyone think it's peace is coming, but actually it doesn't, right?
No. The violence with Pablo Escobar was like this, without him going up.
Going up without
Going up.
him because they want to take the Pablo Escobar situations.
Yeah, over here, gangsters, now those guys don't kill cops.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys kill each other. The government don't help, you know?
Don't help what?
Don't help the community. Don't put the education is probably really bad. And then when they got education, when the people need to find a good job, they don't find a good job. So it's frustrating. So that the violence coming from there.
Okay, so you mean like a violence criminal come from poor? You think?
Yeah. Many people, Colombian people, go away from here.
Mhm.
They have good skills,
Mhm.
and then because they don't find a good job over here.
数多くの人が犠牲になり凶悪犯罪者として批判の声がある一方、パブロ・エスコバールが実際に支援した地区とは一体どのような場所なのか。はい、ということで皆さん、ここがですね、パブロ・エスコバールが支援した貧困街ですね。山の中腹にあって南米のね貧困街を思い浮かべるような感じですかね。当時ここはですね、メデジン市内のゴミが全て集まる地域だったみたいで、そこには200、300ほどの家族が住んでたみたいで、人々は集まってくるゴミ、レストランの廃棄や金持ちが捨てたものを食べたり、廃棄物を売って生計を立ててたみたいで、それを見たパブロはものすごい悲しい顔をして、こんなことがあってはならないということで涙を流し、パブロは彼らのために街を作ったみたいです。
¿Qué te parece de Pablo Escobar?
Ahora, en mi opinión, Pablo Escobar fue una persona que logró muchas cosas que para la gente pues fue muy impactante y vea que Pablo lleva ya 30 años muerto y aún así, llevando 30 años muerto, es una historia que nunca la gente va a olvidar.
Todo ven, Medellín, Colombia, Pablo Escobar.
当時コロンビアはですね、富裕層と貧困層の格差が著しく大きかったみたいで、でもね、貧困層の人からすると、その資金がたとえ高いんであっても彼へのね感謝の気持ちっていうのを、ここにね住む住人の人みんな持ってらっしゃるっていうことで、街の至る所ではですね、崇拝するかのようにパブロの写真があったりペイントがあったりっていう感じがね見受けられます。
He created like a political system. It's called Medellin Situgurios. Medellin Situgurios is Medellin without slums. When people is poor, they had a roof, they had access to education, so something like that. But these people, they don't have nothing.
So Pablo trying to be everyone equals.
Yeah, but we know 560 houses. How many cops died? 562. 20,000 people got that benefit because Pablo Escobar was a good guy. But how many people died here in Colombia?
Exactly.
46,612. Here, guys, you put your own balance. He's a Robin Hood, he was equal, or he was a bad guy.
So I think 1982, Pablo was trying to, become the politician, and then he became, right? And what he wanted to do,
The only way is because it's our business. We need to legalize him. So he want to be in the power. Say, I go there to be Colombia president. So we avoid that tradition. We legalize our own business. We don't go to prison, and then we can here free enjoy our money.
But he could have done without becoming the politician because he can control the government, without becoming the politician. Is that so or no?
So man, Pablo Escobar had good power, but he know in the political system the real power is there. I'm there in the political. We don't need to use guns to kill people. We put our own laws. What is most dangerous? A bullet or a pencil? A pencil is most dangerous than a bullet.
True.
Because a bullet go over there probably much faster than a pencil, but the leathers have more power than any bullet. Can go around there. Now with the social media, you put something there and everybody knows about.
It's crazy weapons, yeah.
Exactly. It's a weapon, so
He wanted to get that. 刑務所から16ヶ月の逃亡生活、世界の麻薬王にかけられた懸賞金は$100万。コロンビア政府 DEA、彼に苦しめられた人々や敵対勢力が集まるロスペペスはついに彼を追い詰めた。
So we arrive here. What's happening here?
okay, my friend, this is a neighborhood is called Los Olivos neighborhood behind of me. That safe house he hid for us for a week.
Where's the rest of the 18 months? Where was he? No one know.
No one knows. He was like a snake,
Yeah.
When we go over here, when we go north, he go to south. When we go to west, he go to east. So he got good information
So how did he get the information?
for taxi drivers. At that time, the taxi had radios, and the taxi drivers say, "Oh, some police activities over here." Pablo Escobar go there to other place, and Pablo Escobar paid for the information.
I see.
16ヶ月のね逃亡生活を経て会える人もねほんま限られてたと思うし、もちろん家族とも会えんかったと思うし、いろんな人を手にかけた男の最後、一体ね彼はここでどんな気持ちだったんでしょうね。So this is the place Pablo was like
The great bridge you can see there,
There, okay.
that was a window there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Commander, a police officer,
Okay.
drew from here with a rifle, shot to kill, but hit that guy over here in his leg.
Okay.
So there is when he fell off from there at the rooftop. That is why he had a big cut over here.
Okay.
So he lost his gun. When he tried to recover again his gun to still fighting to defend his life, so another commander at a high position with a handgun 9mm made the last shot from here to here. That is the question.
Yeah.
Who killed him or he shot himself? So I suppose this missile phone, but that is my gun. And then I need to shoot myself. I put my gun over here. Check it out. Coming a little up. No straight, no down. So they're coming from here, over here. First evidence, Pablo Escobar don't shoot himself.
But he could do like this way.
Man, if you need to shoot just now, you put over here or put like that. You're like, okay, no.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a good point for you. Well, first evidence there. We can argue with that one. It's 9mm, and these 9mm, they need a distance to pass all these bombs from here to here.
Oh wow.
Man, in there, we don't need to be an expert in ballistic. If we put my gun over here, over here, so where is the powder or the gunpowder, you know? Gunpowder. You have like a colorific there in your skin. It's not there. So, Pablo Escobar don't shoot himself.
Right.
That was a police operation, and then he was shot to kill.
最終的にですね、彼に恨みを持つ集団ロスペペスにですね、300人を超える彼の仲間、親族、あと弁護士など、次々にね殺されて、メデジンカルテルの大半の財産がロスペペスによって潰されたという話も聞きます。やっぱりね、自分がやったことって自分に返ってくるんだなって、なんかそういう話聞いて思いますね。
So how did he find out? He was calling, right?
See, the last call he made was for 5 minutes. He made a call just to save his family. Also, Juan Pablo Escobar,
But he knew it, right?
Oh yes, he knew it.
He knew it.
Also, Juan Pablo Escobar, his son say, Daddy, that is enough time. They got to intercept the call. And Pablo Escobar keep talking. I think so that day, Pablo Escobar need to save his family, but I think so he was tired. Say, you guys got me, or get me over here, or most probably gonna die. In my family, I can save my family. So Pablo Escobar died over here to save his own family.
Or he died for families.
He died for family. He was a family man.
So, like today, like we went to all around the Pablos, and I hear from you about Pablo Escobar's, and then what I watched on Netflix, it's like, it's completely different.
Yes.
It's not completely, but like
No, it's completely different because
you think so?
it's not accurate. It's not 100% accurate. It's not 90% accurate. Come on. We don't care about the actor. We don't care is about the truth.
Yeah.
So here in Colombia, we don't like that kind of movie or series because for that one, and
That's how make money.
exactly, it's to make money. You make in a Colombia movie. In this Colombia movie, 46,612 people die. So you need to respect to put fiction there.
彼の死を経て葬儀には約2万5千人の人が集まった。メデジンカルテルが自身の覇権を維持するために闘争を続けた結果、コロンビアは世界で最も殺人が多い国となり、1991年には約2万5千人、1992年には約2万7千人が殺された。実際に彼は英雄なのか、憎き犯罪者なのか、その答えを知らず、パブロ・エスコバールは去年44歳で亡くなり、コロンビア・メデジンの街が見渡せる丘の上に眠る。